Ooh, I don't like her voice. Recording and I don't know. Um, well, good morning, yo. Gabi, first, I guess we need to say congratulations on winning the first prize of our first open call. Yes. No, yeah. Um, just to start out, I don't know if you know this, but you were the very first entry you were the first person that entered the call. Um, and yeah, you were the first person that entered. And me and Jennifer opened that email. We were like, bitch.
I was like, this is
it. We were like, this is the shit that we fucking need. This is what we were literally like, this is what we want. This is what we were asking for. This is what we were waiting for.
Oh my goodness.
So
I didn't know it was the first one. Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, that it wasn't as if you weren't like the placeholder. We weren't like, bitch, this is like, but from the jump, we were like, oh yeah, this was gonna be in the top. Like for sure. We absolutely respect what you make.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something really funny what my mom said?
Yes.
So I always tell my mom like what I'm doing, and I 100% love my mother. She's always been supportive, and she's always been like, she doesn't understand sometimes what I'm doing, and I tell her ideas, and she's like, okay, mija, and she just kind of goes on, but then I'll show her she understands. So I told her, I was like, oh mom, I won first place. And she's like, on what? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna send you the picture I won on, because sometimes I'm very hesitant to send her stuff. So I sent her the picture, and she's like, Gabriela, and then like she was like laughing but mad at the same time, and she was like, I really hope you got paid for this. And I told you never do nothing free when it comes to showing anybody your body. And I go, I did get paid for it. And she goes, oh, okay, then that's fine. And I was like, okay. But I laughed because I really thought I was gonna get really, really mad. But I was like, no, she's fine. She's like, as long as you get paid, that's all that matters. Just she's like, don't show your goodies for free. And I was like, okay, mom.
Yeah.
That's my mom.
That's so funny. Yeah, she sounds great. That sounds like a supportive parent to a T. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that to think about the payment sort of stuff, like quite realistically, I don't like the idea of, even though we have to do it all the time as artists, right? Like having to put your work out there, especially when the work is really personal, when you have your body in the work, whenever you have your like emotional being in the work. It's hard to put that shit out there for no compensation, for no notoriety, for no anything. So yeah, I don't know. I just think about like what we try to do, like literally amplify artists' voices, but also make sure that they ain't paying shit. And also some of them will get paid on the other side of it.
So, for sure. Yeah, I 100% agree. We artists, we work too hard. That we get very like, when we get recognized, it's like, oh, can you do it for free now when we get recognition? It's like, and then it's like this weird balance. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna get exposure, but I'm not gonna get paid for it. I'm getting like, it's like this weird thing. And it's like, we want exposure, we want our work out there, but it's hard to do it for free. We're like, shit, we want to get paid. We need to pay bills. We need to like do stuff. So yeah, it's like this weird balance and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just picking up crumbs, like as we can get them,
Yeah.
For sure. I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about how it sucks because they'll be like, oh, we'll pay y'all for like $100, or we'll pay y'all $50 or $25 or something really low. And then even though you're worth it, like, oh, I'm worth more or something like that, unfortunately, there's always going to be another artist that's going to need the money and is going to take that lowballed payment. And it sucks. It's like, it's this weird cycle that we're in. We're never going to get out if we all decide to, no, we are worth this much. And stuff. So it just sucks. So
yeah. It does suck. It absolutely does. I mean, we as artists have to, we're told off. I know that you went to art school as well. You graduated with your MFA from
UTSA,
and that's in San Antonio, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we both went to Lamar in Beaumont, Texas, and we went to art school here. And it's awesome to have the opportunity and privilege to, you know, work with people, work with professionals at whatever institution, even though these institutions may be flawed, very flawed. You know, we still have the privileges of being able to have an education in comparison to other people. But especially in the arts, it's like, well, we're going to teach you this and this and this, but we're definitely not going to teach you after you get out how to be like us, how to get that job or get that show, or how to fund your own practice and how to sustain your own practice. There's so many things that just get swept under the rug. Like, we're expected to be these professional artists that are making work without the compensation, without the ability to survive as human beings in this on this planet. So yeah, it's rough, especially rough to continue to make your work while also being like, well, I gotta eat tomorrow. How the fuck am I gonna eat tomorrow? Because my work ain't doing that for me right now, you know?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to have some really good grad professors. Some good, some the ones you just mentioned right now. I had really great mentors in grad school, and they really helped guide me. And like, I always ask them like really hard questions, the ones you just asked, like, how did you get to where you're at now? How did you do it? Like, I want to know your tricks, and I want to know, I guess, your methods and whatnot. And a lot of them did tell me, and a lot of them did help me. I'm a shout out to Sarah Lasley and like Lady Rowe. Like, they were one of the, like, there was many, many more, but they helped me a lot. And they, to this day, they still help me. I will text them like, hey, can y'all guys look at this? Or, hey, how did y'all guys do this? And like, they're constantly helping me out and supporting me still to this day. And I've been out of grad school since 2020, about a year already. Oh, that sounds weird to say. But then there's other professors that kind of just there and not really, you know, just like, I'm here for the check. And it's just like, well,
Right.
you're really helping me out. I need to know how to apply for shows. How did you get into shows? Who do you have to know? Who are your, like, so yeah, those are the professors that you mentioned right now. They're the ones that I'm like, why are you here? If you're gonna help us progress, why are you here?
If you're in it for yourself, I mean, there's reasons I think that people need to really focus on themselves, especially if you have to survive. But that being said, if you're an educator, bitch, I'm not paying money for you to look at yourself. I'm paying money for you to help my ass out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah.
But before we get too far, let's talk a little bit about you. I would love to, for at least for you to talk to us or to the viewers or that will see this someday soon about like where you. Hold on, we got them written down because we we can't memorize everything. Like, so anyway, we would just love an introduction to you, who you are, both as an artist and as a living human being. Take that
if you want.
No, it's so funny.
Background first, if you want, and then just move forward. It might be easier.
So hi everyone. I guess my name is Gabi Magaly. That's my artist name. A lot of people are always confused because they see Gabriela Cruz. That's my government name, and then Gabi Magaly is my artist name. So I'm a first generation Mexican American woman. Both of my parents came from Mexico, and essentially I'm also a first generation college student. I was the first one it kind of sucks because I'm the first and only one that's gone to college in my generation, and I don't like that. I want my family to come along with me, you know, and let us all grow. But I've had there's other family members that have also gotten like stuff outside of college, like my certificates and stuff, and I'm like, yes, let's further our education and stuff. But besides that, I essentially grew up in Bryan, Texas. That's my hometown. If you don't know where Bryan's at, I have to say Bryan College Station, and that's where the Aggies are at. And it's really funny every time I say that. They're like, "Oh my God, did you go to A&M?"
Like,
no, I did not go to A&M. Someone one time told me that Texas A&M is actually one of the very few colleges in Texas that do not offer art as a degree. I found that out, and I was like, that explains a lot. So I went to Sam Houston State University for my undergrad, and I studied there with photography, and it was interesting. It was really interesting because it was like there's that other joke that they say in Texas that's where all the inmates go to die, because that's essentially that's where everyone gets killed. Like what is it called? Yeah, in Huntsville, and that's where they do the lethal injection is in Huntsville. So if there's an inmate that needs to that's on death row, they go to Huntsville.
Good Lord, we're gonna have to abolish that. We're gonna have to abolish that.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. So growing up in that environment, that small town, and seeing a lot of TDCJ people, and there was a prison down like literally down the street from where we from Sam Houston, and you can actually sometimes hear the ringing or the bells to let them know that there's inmates being put out in the courtyard, and we could hear it from our school. So that was always interesting. But I'm like venturing off. But like essentially, I was raised in a machismo household, which means toxic masculinity. My dad was very I'm trying to think of the correct word. He was, I guess you could say, emotionally manipulative. He thankfully never laid a hand on us. But he was very just his words. There's a lot of words that I remember, a lot of things that I remember him saying, but essentially some of them were like, you belong in the kitchen, like you need to know how to learn how to cook, clean, like you're gonna like you need to learn how to be a good wife and everything like that. So that was a big challenge for me. And but my mom, on the other hand, was the opposite. She was like, no, my daughters are not going to be cooking and cleaning. They need to go study. They need to go do their homework. They need to go do this. Because my mom was very big about education. She always says, she goes, I need you to get a degree because a man can never take that away from you. You need to earn your money because a man can never take your own money away. Like my mom was always about education, about a woman earning her own money, her own everything. My mom's like, you do it because a man can never take that away from you. And that was my mom. And that's why that's where a lot of my work comes from, this big push and pull between my dad being very machismo and my mom being very feminist. So it was really weird. And they're still, to this day, they're still together. So it was a big push and pull. So that's where my artwork comes from, and essentially trying to turn a very negative experience growing up into a positive thing. And hopefully one day women can see this, or not even just women, but I mean, just younger Latinas or Latinos, whomever, whatever, or however they identify, they see this at a much younger age than I did, because I wish I would have heard a lot of the positive things I'm trying to put out into the world, because maybe I would have realized much sooner that I was much stronger than I really thought I was, like probably at 12, 13 versus thinking I was strong at 25. So that's where a lot of my work stems from, my childhood and stuff, but that's who I am.
Yo.
But yeah.
Yeah, I talked too much. Your turn.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, I fucking love it. No, I'm all fucking for it. I mean, the upbringing of living, like, you know, a marginalized experience, and like as a woman, as a person of color, like, I don't know, it is an absolute undermined one, I guess, like, for lack of a better word. We need more of this sort of like this truth and this realness. I don't know, kind of like weaponizing your own history is something that I think is really, really powerful in what you're doing right now. And I also think it's really important that, yeah, I agree, like, you know, that other people can see this sort of stuff. I also come from a background of trying to think about like my marginalized experience and my work and how I can not only cope with that experience, right, but how I can show other people that different things. I can show them that, hey, you're not alone. I'm also, you have brethren, you have sisterhood, you have some camaraderie in this effort to fight against what we've been taught as children. These weird binaries, especially the binaries that is male, female, especially like the patriarchy that creates. You know, I think that it's awesome to especially make work that fights against these things that we've been taught for so long are the norm. Fuck that shit. Fuck the norm. Is that a dog?
Reginald.
You must show the dog.
Yeah, that's what you're I 100% agree with you. It's very interesting, like, to see like what you mentioned, like the sisterhood in this community that you have. And I didn't know, in my naive head, I really thought it was normal growing up the way I grew up. I really thought it was normal to have an alcoholic father. I thought it was normal to be caused certain things growing up. I really thought that was normal. I thought everybody experienced it, until I had a friend that told, like, he came over my house and he opened the fridge. He said, hey, can I get something to drink? So yeah, get it from the fridge. Opened it and there was a shit ton of beer. And he was like, wow. I was like, y'all guys have a lot of beer. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, that's a lot. And I was like, oh, I thought it was normal. And that
Mm.
really like clicked into my head, and I was like, oh shit, that's not normal.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because when I started creating my work, I just started to create it because I needed some kind of therapeutic way of like expressing my voice, because I never was allowed to express it. And then when I started putting it out, I didn't realize people were related to it. I don't know why. It never dawned on me. I just created it for myself. And then people started telling me their stories about how they were raised in their household and how they were affected by their dad. And I was kind of like, oh shit, this is something we really need to talk about. Why are we not talking about this? Why are we just not talking about it in general? Like not just outside of the art world with our families. And it just really kind of woke me up a little bit. And I was like, okay, I need to start still create the work, but I need to take myself out, as in make it more available, or people can try to fit themselves in it, and it's just not me that's 100% in it. And it is still 100% me, but I'm trying to keep it to where it's open to the audience to try to put themselves in it and relate to that. But yeah, it's machismoism is just crazy. And Marianismoism, that's another word that I learned. Marianismoism is the opposite of it's a female version of machismo. What it means is that, so it stems from the word from La Virgen de Guadalupe, Mary, oh Maria, and essentially how women are going to be submissive, going to be dainty, are going to be holy, are going to fit that role of being a mother, being a caregiver, a caregiver. I don't know.
Caretaker. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Caretaker. So that's the other word that I learned when I was doing some research. But yeah, Marianismoism is another thing that I'm like, we need to also dismantle that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. Also, thank you for like, I don't know, thank you for sharing about your experience. I think a lot about, I remember reading on Twitter back in the day. I still got on Twitter, I'm lying. But I saw this tweet, and so I from the flip side, I guess, I make work about my experience with depression. Suicidal ideation is very real, but that's something that's also not very talked about. I mean, in different sides, like totally different coins. But I didn't know that. I remember seeing a tweet, and someone was apparently talking to their therapist, and they said, the therapist is like, how much do you think about suicide? And the person was like, I mean, every day, doesn't everybody? And the therapist was like, no, not everyone thinks of that every day. That's bad. And the person was genuinely like, I didn't know that. And I read that and I was like, oh, I literally was like, people don't do that every day. Like, that's just, that was my realization of being like, oh, like something also has to be done about this, whether it be like in my head, yes, but also like you were saying, these conversations need to happen significantly more often. And they are swept under the rug by toxic masculinity, by like this machismo culture, by like this like weirdly systemic white male straight heteronormative privilege that is, I think, slowly but surely being dismantled. The more we have conversations like this, the more space we make for the white man to step aside and let us take up the space. And let us tell our stories, our very real and raw and very valid stories, right? I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm still half asleep. I feel like I need another cup of coffee.
Bitch, where your coffee at?
I drank it all already. It wasn't enough, okay?
Walk around in circles to get the blood.
Oh my God, I'm like.
This is us all the time. Is one of us is like, yeah, and the other one's like, we're gonna switch it.
Probably, yeah.
All right.
What's next?
No, your turn.
All right.
I've been like going off about how like, yeah, I'm really just enjoying like.
I feel like she answered that second question.
That's fine. I'm just really enjoying like the ways in which, so like, to like even like just to converse, right? Like, I think both of us make work to like different works to deal with our experiences, not just our identities as queer people, as women-bodied people, as like Black people, you know, different from that. Like, but to deal with our experience as marginalized people, you know, looking through the history books of the art world, that is so. Not only is it not, it's nowhere near showcased as much as it should be, like the reality of our experiences. But in even when it is, it's so specified. It's like a very like maybe Western white gaze. It's a very like it's so not our experience. You know, we need more of that, more of people not necessarily making work about it. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, we all do that. I think it's really great. Telling their stories and living in their truth, and accenting that to the fullest in the art and within people within the art world. Your art can be whatever the fuck you want, and then come in and be whoever the fuck you want too. Like, you don't have to. Oh my God, I remember in grad school being like, I just want to be myself. And what I said was, that's what I meant. But what I was saying was like, I just want to draw anime characters. I don't want to fucking do this, like looking at photographs from the 1800s anymore. Shout out to Kevin Mulhern. I love you. I'm sorry. That's my photo history teacher. He's like,
no disrespect, but
right. Or like, I was like, I'm tired of this. I want to do only what I want to fucking do right now. And thankfully, I have some support to do that. You know, like more people doing what the fuck they want to do, saying what the fuck they want to say.
Yeah. But I guess like to piggyback off like the conversation you're saying, yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, I'm very, very, very aware when I'm in a room full of white people when it comes to the art world. Like, I step in and I'm like, oh, I'm the only little brown speck of snow. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to control this? Like, how am I going to come into this like place? Like, and it's, I'm very, very aware of it. So that's the reason why I use myself a lot, like in all my artwork, because being an undergrad, or like you mentioned, like an undergrad in high school, and like seeing nothing but like going through the history books, it's like white men, and it's just like, okay, where's someone white, or where's someone that's not white? Like, you just like clicking through the pages and it's like, okay, there's no one, and it's just like it sucks. So that's the reason why I use a lot myself, because I want to essentially be the one. I want to see myself. I know this sounds very narcissistic, but I want to see myself. I want to see someone that looks like me in these spaces, like in these white walls. And it's like, I want to take up space. And if I have to like make a big ass blanket of me masturbating on it, I'm going to do it. Like, let's do this. And it's just I don't know. It's just really interesting. Like, we just need to break that. We just need to take it down. We need more spaces, essentially, where there is people that look like you growing up. So yeah, for sure.
I don't think that sounds narcissistic by any means.
Not at all.
I mean, like, you know, if I'm, oh my gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, whoever is up there or below me, but I think it's Frederick Douglass. I'm gonna look this up. You know, we got the internet right here. I think Frederick Douglass is one of the most like one of the most photographed people ever. History, yeah, they said, I like literally Googled it. So he's like one of the most photographed people in like the 19th century at the very least. And he's a Black man. He always put himself in front of the camera, always. Not because he was like super well known, especially in this like whitewashed American history, but he knew that if his face was gonna be like historicized, he's gonna do it. If he could put his face like somewhere important a lot, or in places a lot, then he would have there would be no other choice but to memorialize him, at the very least, at the medium of photography, right? Yeah. Like, he was like, no, I'm gonna take up this fucking space, and we need that shit. We need more of it.
I didn't know that. Oh, I guess it never really dawned on me, like, oh, well, there's a lot of pictures of him. I guess it just never clicked. I just saw pictures of him. Like, okay. I guess we're so used to seeing pictures of, we have a camera in our hand at all times. So I'm like, oh, everyone has pictures of themselves. I was like, oh, never mind. That's not true. But for sure, we can answer number 2. I kind of have it's kind of different how I was introduced to it.
Let's go.
If you want to ask it and then I answer it, so the audience.
Okay, sure. Okay. What was your introduction to art?
I was actually in high school. So I went to an early college high school called Bryan Collegiate High School. I just found out that it's actually one of the top 10 high schools in Texas just recently. I was like, oh shit. But I was the second generation that graduated out of the school. So
Okay, cool.
they were still learning. They were guinea pigs essentially. But I was a dual credit high school, like essentially the whole high school is like
Dual
taking
credit.
credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since ninth grade all the way till 10th grade. I mean, ninth grade to 12th grade, like it's all. And I graduated, I think, a sophomore from high school into college. So they essentially prepare you for college. And I do thank them for that. But long story short, I was in an art and design college class in 10th grade. And I had a teacher, her name was Miss Hex, and like she saw something in me I didn't understand. I was like, this is my first art, like kind of taking it serious art class. And then she was teaching us and blah, blah, blah. She was giving us like the basic design and stuff like that. And I was going through my little scene phase. So I was like, for sure, like into Tumblr, and I was into photography. Yes. All this like cutesy stuff and like taking pictures of like monster cans. Like I really thought I was the shit, right? So
the famous hat.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
My little Hello Kitty gear. So I really thought like I guess she saw that I was artistic of some sort, and she's like, you could go to college for this. And I was like, you could get a degree in this? And she's like, yeah. And I did not know this. And you could get a bachelor's in art. And I was like, oh, you can? And she's like, yeah, you could get it in photography if you want. And she's the one that really kicked it into gear for me to go to art school. And that if I never would have taken her class, I don't think I would have found art much later in life, but I would have probably be miserable at a 9-to-5 job and stuck in an office because I did not know that you could go to school for art. So that was like my first like introduction to art. It like really like blew my mind. But yeah. And I also want to appreciate my scene phase. If it wasn't for my scene phase, I don't think I would have discovered art either. So yeah.
Ooh, we got a good one. All right. And if this hasn't infected you, hopefully not. If this hasn't affected you, then totally good. But we have the question that is, how's the past year, specifically thinking about quarantining and COVID, and especially like the upheaval of social justice, right? Like, did that impact your work at all?
It did impact my work ethic or like how I worked. Was impact. Like when COVID happened, I graduated in May 2020. So literally the week that we were so in March, like that spring break, we were at a conference, a speed conference or whatever. There was like rumored about COVID or whatever. And they're like,
Bitch, you were there?
Yeah. But literally 2 weeks before that, my thesis show was happening in April. And I was freaking out. And so we finally go back, and that's when we had got the email that they extended the spring break that never ended. They extended the spring break or whatever. And we're in class, in our studios working. And then our chair was like, hey, heads up, just to let you know, we might be closing the studios. And I'm like, we can't. I was like, I have all my thesis in here. I don't have nowhere to take it and stuff like that. And he's like, okay, well, just heads up, just in case, start slowly moving. The following day, he's like, you guys have to move out. And we're like, fuck.
I felt that shit, bro.
He was kind enough to help us move I love Greg. He was our chair. He had a truck. He did everything he could to help us move wherever we needed to move. So that's what really, like, it was hard because I shifted my studio into a storage and in my 1-bedroom apartment. That's what really impacted me big time. And I was to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. So thankfully, I was able to get a job at Diné College. This is this awesome tribal school in Saline, Arizona. And I'm working remotely. So that was with that wonderful pay increase, I was able to finally get a 2-bedroom apartment. And we were able to get a studio. This is where I'm at in my studio area. So that was only big impact that I had, was just moving from my studio, like being ripped out real quick and thrown into like a 1-bedroom and not being able to really work. And then finally being able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. That was like my biggest impact. But also like not being motivated, being home all the time. That also impacted me too. I'm just like, the TV's there and the bed's I deserve a nap. And so yeah, that was probably like the biggest one. I'm still like, I guess you could say still battling that, where I'm like, I did so much today. I deserve a nap. And it's just like, you do, but you have shit to do. It's just your art stuff. So finding motivation has probably been the biggest like thing that's impacted me during COVID, and trying to find is, I wish I had a space outside of home where I wouldn't be so distracted and wanting to like do other things. But yeah, and I don't want to complain, because other people were impacted much worse than I was. And I'm just thankful that I was able to find a job during this time and be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. So yeah.
Yo, that's awesome. I'm glad you found a place. Like, ooh.
I totally feel the finding motivation problem. I feel like I've had that for the past year, honestly. So yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. It's like I have ideas and I want to do them, and then I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. And it's just like
what
stop.
find on Netflix?
I finally found like this kind of easy balance. Like this is my studio space, but I now have all my art stuff right now is in the living room, and I have my TV and I watch Netflix while I'm doing work. So I'm kind of I found a balance and stuff like that. But yeah, it's that. It's like, but yeah, motivation is what I'm lacking right now sometimes. Yeah.
Man, I mean, I know that. So I graduated I just graduated in May from University of New Mexico. So, and Jennifer graduated last December. So you graduated, and then Jennifer graduated next semester, and then I graduated. So, but that being just to say, like, I remember, as we all know how stressful thesis is. I cannot imagine, because it's already rough. It's already rough dealing with COVID, and then you have to move out of your studio during. Y'all gonna put this shit up for me then. I'm like,
It was rough, like, because obviously everyone was panicking. Nobody knew what was really happening. Nobody knew like the extent of it. Like there was one time I had to go to HEB because I had to get something for my thesis show, right? And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to right now at 10 p.m. I was like, no one's gonna be there. Oh my God, was that a damn lie? Like all the lines were all the way in the and I was like, what's going on? And that's when like COVID was kind of being talked about, and I was kind of freaked out, and I was like, and all I had to do was get flowers because it was part of I was doing something with my thesis, and I was like, maybe I should go get some food. I was really confused, so I got whatever I could find on the shelves because everything was like wiped. And when I got home, I told my boyfriend, I was like, maybe we should panic. I was like, people are panic buying. What do they know that we don't know? Like what's going on? And he's like, all right, we'll go tomorrow, get water. We couldn't even find water. Like we couldn't find anything. So yeah, that was very stressful, dealing with COVID, not knowing what the hell was going on, having to move out of my studio into 1 bedroom, trying to finish thesis up and still install, and know that nobody even showed up to thesis because they couldn't. Everything was closed down. But Pressa House, shout out to Pressa House and Rigo and Janelle. They are amazing people. They tried everything. They figured it out. They were able to give me a virtual tour. They had a friend. They were able to do those 360 cameras
oh dang, those are cool. Yes.
For real estate or whatever. They brought him in, and oh my God, they were able to do that. Then Rigo was connected. He knew some friends from Spectrum. He knew, and I just got me a lot of interviews, as much as he could get me, and so much press around it. And I was like super duper, like I was thankful. And I was like, if I had the money, I was like, Rigo, I'd hire you as my manager, because oh my God, he and Janelle like did a lot for my show. And I'm very thankful that they helped me get it, to help me have as much of a normal thesis as they could give me, and stuff. But yeah, shout out to Press House. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out in that way. I mean, I know that Jennifer was dealing with that too. Like,
I got screwed, yeah. I got screwed pretty bad.
Yeah, I can't wait for, I mean, now that, at least, now that things are starting to open back up a little bit, me and Jennifer have been to Houston a few times to go see work. Like, man, we were earlier talking about like not having motivation. And Jennifer definitely has been struggling with that, and I've been trying to help as much as I can. And then I moved back here, and I also started to be like, not. It was all like, I don't know, like this is my studio room, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I gonna make? Or I'll just like be like, my artwork today will be emailing and like entering calls. It's valid, but wasn't making work because I just couldn't make work. Or I'd make something, I'm like, oh, this is booty cheeks, don't want to do anything now. But going and seeing some like shows and what seeing other contemporary artists are making, especially what people were making the past year or so that's in shows, that has been incredibly inspiring to me.
Yeah. Instagram's not doing it.
I know. I know. I love Instagram, and it can really be doing it sometimes, but it just hits a different way whenever you see work in person. I want to ask a Gabi question.
Okay.
We
know it's my turn.
Oh yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Wow. Okay.
My bad.
Let's see. What inspired you to create What's for Breakfast?
So
you can also talk about the whole body of
or like the work in That's Not Ladylike.
So obviously this goes back to like the whole machismo thing about like being submissive as a woman, and like your body's only meant to be, it's just essentially just a baby maker. So it goes back to that. And so I really so growing up hearing all those things, you're going to be a mom, you're meant to be a mother, you're meant to be this for your husband, blah, blah, blah. Like I really resented that to the point where I'm not married and I don't have kids because of that reason. I really resented it big time. So obviously when sex education, women are not talked about, like the clitoris, and when they do talk about masturbation, is just the men or boys, I guess it's kind of weird to say, but only the male are the ones that are talked about in the sex education about masturbation. Is never about girls telling like, all right, this is how you flick your bean. Like we're not told anything about that. So it was just really interesting to me how sex just wasn't talked about when it comes to pleasing a woman, or how a woman is pleased and blah, blah, blah. So I was just really interested in that. And then obviously it didn't take until meeting my boyfriend to realize what it was to be pleased, or to understand like, oh, women can also have fun during sex. And that to me was like, why did it take me this long for me to understand this? So I really do believe that obviously the sex education system has failed us, and being taught any of that stuff. And I know it's kind of weird to have that conversation with your parents about masturbation, but I was just really interested in it. So I decided to essentially talk about sex and the clitoris, and being eating out, or the pleasures that I feel when I do have sex with my boyfriend. And I wanted to put it on doilies, or I wanted to put it on table runners, because that's what I saw growing up in my abuelita's household. We always saw that. It's probably not just abuelitas that I saw it. There's everyone probably has them, but that's what I remember seeing these things for tablecloths and stuff like that. And I wanted to kind of subvert it, and I kind of wanted to put it on things that women make, create, or use every day, because they are not allowed to talk about these things. They're not allowed to enjoy sex. They're not, they're just meant to be baby makers and stuff like that. So I was like, what if these pornographic things lived in a space that sex isn't supposed to be talked about, in the kitchen, in the living room, or things that where you, I mean, if you're freaky, yes, you can have sex in any of these places, but you're not, you just don't talk. Sex is just meant to be in the bedroom. And stuff. So that's the reason why I wanted to create all of these things. And they're also portraits of myself, and because I really wanted to discover a lot of things about like what my body does, and how I saw myself. So I would photograph myself masturbating, because I was like, I've never seen this. I know this sounds weird, and I've always seen, like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that sex education book. I don't know if you guys ever seen this, where girls will put a mirror in front of their like their vagina. They will look at themselves. I've never done that. And I did it with the camera, and I'm like, I'm interested to see how it looks like on a camera. So that's what I did. And I was like, well, I really don't want to just put the photo, and I don't want to just do shock value stuff. I want to push it some more. So that's when that's why I decided to embroider it on doilies and table runners and stuff like that. And obviously this goes back to the fact that women are meant to be the ones that crochet, or they're meant to create all these little things with their hands, because it's such a a feminine thing to do needlework. And of course, I was never taught how to do needlework, but I found out that my great grandma used to do doilies and crochet stuff to make a living back in Mexico. I didn't know that. And I thought that was very interesting. And I feel like that's like, I don't know if it would have changed anything. I don't think it would, but I think that's a very interesting part of history that for me, for my like just, it's just like a very personal history for me. I was like, I wish I would have known this. Like that to me is very empowering to know that my great grandma had to figure out how to make a living and like she's doing doilies and stuff. But that's how why I decided to do it on those things is because I want to put it in someone's face. I want it to be talked about. So yeah, that's how it led to that.
Interesting.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure you felt the same way, Jennifer. I'd hate to be like I'm speaking from both, I'm sure, because I don't think I am, but you know, something that we were so drawn to whenever we saw that piece specifically was for breakfast, the play on words, right? But also just the fact that, you know, we were presented with this object that obviously has a relationship to domesticity and patriarchy. It has, you know, something about cloth in itself being feminine, I find a little bit of a problem with, you know, but we're presented with that. But we're also presented with the flip side, just like you said, the things that we, especially like we as people, and especially women-bodied people and women identifying people, you know, they're not told anything about how their bodies are supposed to work, especially sexually, unless it's supposed to be under the gaze, under the light of some sort of like male entity or some sort of male figure. That's fucked up.
Pornhub.
Exactly. Like when you go on porn websites, it's from the jump tailored towards someone that has a dick.
Yeah.
Tailored towards straight men from the jump. Like, why? How is that okay? You know, how are we not finding problems with the things that we're continuing to perpetuate in our society? It's like, I don't know. There's so many things that we obviously talk about as far as race and identity and gender, but there's things that are that we all like. Sex is like this, it's not a taboo, but like it's still something that people don't talk about. It's still something that people don't fucking, you know, people, oh my God, I can go on and on about the ways that we don't talk about how simple and how like important sex is, right? Like sex doesn't have to be, or like masturbation or jacking off or whatever the fuck it is, doesn't have to be something that you have to hide from the world forever. Until you're on this specific website, and then there's like 1,000 different ways to do it, you know, like.
And most of it, you're not going to get any pleasure from it. Women won't.
yeah, it's all for the guy.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. Like sex is such an interesting topic to talk about, and I'm just like, I'm very comfortable talking about it now. I am. Especially with this work, I've been more comfortable, and I could be like, yeah, that's me masturbating on this and da 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 da. And then people are something like kind of like taken aback, and I'm like, oh right, we don't talk about masturbation out in public. Like we do not talk about this, or we do not like say these things. Like, and it's always funny because like I jokingly always go, I was like, oh, I need to go rub one out because today's been a horrible day, and it's just like it's funny. Like I think masturbation is funny. Yes, it's an uncomfortable topic, but I think we just need to talk about it like more because obviously, what they say? Like, say the safest sex is having sex with yourself. Like, and it's things that I think girls need to figure out their body first before, unfortunately, somebody else knows more about their body because of porn takes advantage of that, and they you know, like, oh, you can do this and you can do that, and it sucks because the girl's learning through the guy or learning through the porn, and it's just like, I don't know, I just think it's crazy. Like I was 25 when I found out when I've seen the full anatomy of the clitoris, and I was like, what the hell, I did not know the full anatomy of the clitoris. And it's just like that 95% of the clitoris is still beneath the surface, that we only see the little brown irritated being. That's the only thing we see on the surface. It's like, holy shit, why are we not taught this in sex education? Like, why are we not seeing this? Like, everybody could draw a dick, but nobody could draw a clitoris. So it's like this very interesting thing. But Yeah, that's the reason why I really wanted to talk about that in this body of work. And I'm actually, it's funny because I'm right now creating a huge queen size bed sheet of me masturbating. I'm in
Wow.
Yes.
it's taken me a long time. I'll show you guys in a minute. It's right now in the living room, but it's huge. Like I just
Yes.
on my face and stuff, but it's huge.
So wait, so you're crocheting it?
I'm embroidering it.
Embroidering it. Oh,
That's
Yeah.
that's
that
It's a
sounds
lot.
so terrifying.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
on month 3, so you can just imagine. I had to take I took a couple weeks off because I was getting really frustrated with it. So
I
I went
bet.
back to revisit it. But yeah,
wow.
Fucking yeah, I'm really what's the word? I am so happy to know of your connection. Oh my God, it's gonna sound so specific. Um, because oh my God. So I'm like so happy to know that you have a background in photography. Um, just because you are making a lot of work that may have like it's like kind of photo derivative when you think about portraying the self or portraying the human body. But it doesn't even have to be. I mean, before we were doing photography, before we had photography, we had paintings to do that. It doesn't have to be photo derivative. I just like the fact that you're using other materials and other ways to also continue talking about exploring self. Like, I don't know, it's just really, really cool to me. Um,
I had thank you. Thank you. It's funny because it comes from a negative remark from grad school is the reason why I pushed away from photography a little bit. I had a professor tell me, like, well, how did she say it? We always had like a debate in grad school. I don't know if you guys had this also debate about painters and drawers versus photographers. Like
hmm,
the painting and drawing professors would always be like, well, why is it a photo? And it was always uh, like that's
right?
what I work in, and you kind of get defensive. And then we would kind of be a little like bitches about it towards the painting and drawing people. Like, why is this not a photo? And we'd kind of like throw it back and forth, but it was kind of a joke.
Mhm.
We weren't serious. But one professor did say, why is this a photo? Like with such disgust. And it at first it hurt me. And I was like, who the fuck are you to tell me that I get kind of really defensive in my head. And I'm just like, and then like after the critique, I sat there and I'm like, okay, why is this a photo? Can it not be something else? Like I sat there and I contemplated, and then that's what pushed me into go into other mediums. Um, Usually a lot of stuff that I do has it comes from a negative remark in my life. So
Right?
I guess it's a good thing. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's an outlet.
Oh,
absolutely.
and the clitoris wasn't fully discovered. The full anatomy wasn't discovered until 1998. Yeah. We did not know the full anatomy of the clitoris until 1998. Yeah.
My gay ass is behind on that's fucking wild though. I mean, thinking about like just the depictions of dicks in art history. Like we've been knowing that, but dicks are also like super boring and easy. Okay, my turn now.
Do this.
Yeah, so I have one that's totally different avenue. Um, so has there been a time you recall not having your voice heard? And this can absolutely be about how you go about your practice or just in life that inspired you as an individual.
I would say this God, like I mentioned earlier, like going back to my childhood, like talking about how I wasn't allowed to talk or allowed to voice my opinions or my feelings or express any of that stuff. That is essentially where a lot of it comes from. That's when I can recall like big time not being heard as a kid or as a teenager, and almost into my early 20s also. Um, Essentially just always being told. There's a saying in Spanish that says, calladita te ves más bonita, which means the quieter you are, the prettier you are.
Oh,
So that's the thing I would hear sometimes growing up. So I really thought, oh, if I just sit here quiet, I'll be pretty. Unfortunately, that's the thing you hear. You tell that to young girls. Um, so it wasn't until like I really left the house to I understand like, oh shit, I have a lot of trauma that I have that I did not know that I had. I didn't know this was trauma. I thought this was drama. I thought every family went through this. And I was like, where it really like just clicked until I left the house to understand that how manipulative I was, and how abusive or mentally abusive I was. I didn't know any of this. Obviously, mental health is not talked about, and it was not talked about in my household. Expressing our feelings was not talked about, and if we express our feelings or voice our opinions, we were being disrespectful. Like it was this whole thing. So when I finally did leave to go to grad school, because I left for undergrad and then I went back home for like a year and a half, and then I left. I permanently left because it just got really, really, it just got worse because in undergrad I found a voice kind of, and I really started to stand up for myself, and it just got so bad to the point I was like, you know what, this is too much of a toxic environment. I need to get the fuck out of here now before something really bad happens. And unfortunately, there were moments where there was a lot of bad things that were happening to the house, and I was like, I'm out. And I left. And that's where it's like I mentioned, it just really dawned on me that I was like, I'm fucked. I'm very fucked up. I didn't realize it. And it took it by me creating my artwork, it has really been very therapeutic, and it's helped me process a lot of trauma. It's helped me find my voice big time. I've been able to create a voice that I didn't know I had. And it's just, that's the reason why I still like to create a lot of my, that's why I still create my work, because if I stop creating, I know I will go crazy, and I know I will have an emotional breakdown because I need that outlet to express myself. And yes, my artwork has made my family mad at points because I'm too expressive, or I'm being very opinionated, or I'm airing our dirty laundry out to the world. And it's just like, it's not that at all. To the family members that are offended, and it's just like, it's not that. It's y'all have told me to be quiet for so long. I cannot continue being that little girl. I have to speak out, and I have to voice my opinions, because I don't want another little girl or boy, or however they identify, to feel suppressed and to be quiet and to be 25 and then figure out, oh shit, I am a strong badass woman. Like, it shouldn't have taken me that long to figure that out. But that's when I don't want to go back there when it comes to being suppressed and having my voice being silenced. That's when I mentioned going back to my hometown is sometimes very hard to go back, because I'm very it's such, I don't like to use this word, but it's very triggering. Because I do believe energy is kept in certain places. I do believe in energy. I do believe in bad, negative, positive, whatever. I do believe in it. So when I do step back into my childhood home and my room, all those emotions flood back, all those memories flood back. And I'm just like, and it takes me about a week to really, when I come back to my home now in San Antonio, it takes me a week to very like decompress and like try not to think about those memories. So try not to step back into those moments and stuff. But yeah, that's what I recall when I didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
What do you do to decompress when you come home after that situation?
I cry.
Yeah.
I cry.
Yeah.
So I come home and I vent to my boyfriend. I tell him like, this is the same shit that I'm still seeing after I've left. And he's a huge, like, honestly, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where the hell I'd be. He helps me out a lot when it comes to expressing my emotions and my feelings and everything like that. And then I really just sit there and I try to like process like the fact that nothing's ever going to change. I've accepted that. And it's hard for me to accept that every time I step back into that home and in the environment. And I just have to accept it. It's not going to change. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I just have to move on. And it's fucking sucks that I have to move on and leave the family that's still stuck there. It's hard for me to say, I'm sorry, but if you need to move on in order for us to move forward. And it's hard because some of them can't accept that just yet. And it's hard for me to love that and be like, you know, it's like, I want you to move on with me. But that's where I'm at. That's what I try to decompress on. I cry, vent, angry, and then I'm like, fuck it. I've accepted it. Move on. There's nothing I can do about it. It's out of my hands. So that's how I decompress.
Absolutely. I love that. I love everything about that. I love, like, you know, it's so fucking difficult to realize, to really like kind of like think critically about how your childhood has really negatively impacted so much of your life. Because as a child, like ignorance is bliss, like literally, you are so unaware of the toxicity that can be around you, especially if you are not a cisgendered straight white male. And that's the fucking facts. Like, that's the fucking facts. The cisgender straight white male will never be able to, that's why they need to give them the empathize at least as much as they can, because they will never have to deal with experiences that are tailored to, or like are like pretty like stamped on us as marginalized people, simply because of our identity, simply because of our identity in a capitalistic society that is perpetuating white supremacy, right? Like that's it's so hard to think about, you know, oh, this was fucked up in my childhood and it shouldn't have been that way. I should have been able to be my bad bitch from the start, like you said. Like, I should have been able to live my truth from the start. I shouldn't have been able to have my voice from the beginning. I should have been listened to, you know, like it's difficult. It's so difficult, but we need, yeah, but like, I'm so glad that you have your art to do that for you. And I'm so glad that you can pick yourself up and be like, you know, I deserve to be at the very least content. And I got to get away from this stuff, whether it be people or a place. Man, yeah, places have that energy. I think both of us know that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
One thing my mom said to me that kind of stuck out to me, she goes, "You're allowed to cry." She goes, "But once you're done crying, get your shit together and get it out." Like, because my mom always told me, she goes, "Crying is not going to get you anywhere," as in figuring out the problem. Yes, crying can let out emotions and let you, you know, release that. Yes, my mom told me that, but she goes, but it's not going to fix the problem. And that to me, I was like, fuck, like it stuck with me. And I'm like, that is true. It's not gonna, you could sit and cry, but it's not gonna, at the end of the day, if you don't figure it out, it's still, the problem's still gonna sit there. So I try to cry. I try to have one mental cry. I think I had one the other day and I was like crying and my boyfriend said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, it's all the built up emotion. It's everything that's building up, all the stress, everything. I just needed it. And and it's funny because I'm like, I have a mental crying breakdown. It's about to come. It's coming. I have a kind of like a warning, like it's coming. And then a couple of days later, I'm like, oh, and it just happened. And I'm like, it feels like I'm constipated with emotion. And then finally I could just release it. So that's how it feels.
Yes.
But yeah.
That only, so these like big cries happen for me one of two reasons. One is more often than the other, which sucks. It's like someone says something to me and I'm like, that hit me the wrong way, don't like that. And then I'll like just cry. Like someone that I care about, I'm like, oh, why do they hate me? Or secondly, I'll be listening to music and then they'll say something that has been on, like, maybe I'll be thinking about something that's been bothering me for like a week. And then something in music will relate to it. I'm like, other people, you know, like people relate. Then I'm just like, art in itself, music.
There's this song that I've been listening on replay, "Run It Up" by Tyler, the Creator, off his new album. If you haven't heard it, have you heard it?
Yes. Yes.
I'm putting it on repeat. I love what he yells at the beginning. He goes, I ain't never been anxious. I've never had anxiety. I've never doubted myself. I've never been scared. I was like, I want that. I want to say that today. I want to be and yell at the top of the roof and be like, I'm not scared.
Right.
I've doubted myself. Like, that's what I want to yell one day. And that's the reason why that song's just like, it's been on repeat for me.
Yes. That song is so, I was listening to it at the gym yesterday. Like, yeah, he was like, that's me. I'm him. I'm that nigga. I am the one. And yeah, my friends, like, when that album came out, I was talking to my friend Sammy. He was like, I will just listen to that song when I run. He was like, I hate working out right now, but when I listen to that song, it makes me want to run because of that, like that part, like. And also shout out to Central High School in Beaumont, Texas, because that nigga Tizo Touchdown is from Central High School, went to Central High School. So crazy. Anyway.
That's funny. But for sure, like that music, music, there would be moments that music gets me too. Like the song Ride. Like, I love Lana. I know she's a little problematic right now at the moment. I'm like, baby girl, why are you doing this? Like, Ride and Get Free. Those two songs always get to me. And like what she says in it is just like feeling crazy and just like wanting to just like ride and just like go into the night and just like finding your people. And to me, I'm like, holy shit, that's what it is. That's what this art community is. You could essentially build your people. You could pick your family or your community in the art world and people that understand you, that, you know, so I don't know. The art world is a crazy world and music is crazy. I love music. I have to have it, but for sure. I'll cry to those songs.
Right. I'm gonna say one thing about music, one last thing, and then we can kind of close it up with like what's next.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing I'm gonna say about music is what really helped get me out of the first time I was really, really depressed in New Mexico was listening to a fuck ton of 21 Savage. I love, and Megan Thee Stallion. I love trap rap and I love it. I just fucking love it. And I love me some like deep ass lyrical indie. I just went to shout out to Big Thief because their concert was amazing. And we're going to a tennis concert soon. Anyway, but I love me some trap rap because those niggas just be on there. They're like, I'm the baddest bitch, and that can't nobody tell me nothing. Like I've been through some shit and still can't nobody tell me nothing. The whatever way they say that that's such a like hyper active theme with Megan Thee Stallion, 21 Savage, Maxwell Cream, but talking about like different artists, right? And they be like, but I'm still a bad bitch, but I'm still a bad, like I'm still the GOAT. I just love that the confidence that these artists just bring to their work. I even though I'm like, my work's like, I hope to have that sort of like essence in myself. Even if the work helps me cope with something else, I want to live that. I want that sort of like positivity.
1,000% agree with you. Yeah, I could continue this conversation. And we'd be here another hour if we continue talking about music. But yeah, I don't want to keep you guys much longer.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. So what's next for you?
I'm working on a 2-person show. It's going to be in April for Bee Cave in Bee Cave, Texas, over there by Austin area.
Okay.
It's really interesting how I got that opportunity. I applied for one of their shows, a group show, and it was funny because I applied with the work that y'all guys really fell in love with.
Yes.
They didn't get in the group show, but they love my work so much that they created a 2-person show for me and another person that didn't get in. So they're like,
that's so cool.
So like your work is so strong, like we felt like it needed its own show. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I've never heard of this before. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So that is what I'm working on for the month of April. Yeah, April. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna be doing SPE, the conference. Hopefully you guys can go to Dallas.
Yeah, hope so.
Hopefully you guys can go out there. I'm gonna be doing a panel out there. There's a couple of things that I'm working on video now. I have a video that I've been working on. I hate editing, so that's taking me a little while.
Take some time. Yeah. Jennifer's
but I have a lot of little projects here and there going on. Obviously with my abuelita, working with her, with my grandparents, photographing them, and like talking, like is asking them questions about like how they grew up and memories, because obviously, and like I know we were talking about this, but like Latinos or Mexicanos, like we don't really have like, we can't trace back our lineage. Like everything is like told down by oral history, or it's just their documentation in Mexico is awful, so there's no documentation. And obviously I would love to I would actually really know where I'm from. That's what I want to do next. Like I've tried to do the whole lineage thing. My grandma was like, why do you want to know all this stuff? She was like, what the hell? But that's what's kind of next for me. I really want to know where I come from. And I know that's a big thing for a lot of people right now. I want to know my identity. I know that I am indigenous, but I want to know like how much am I? What's my tribe? What, like, am I Aztecian? Am I Mayan? What am I? I really want to know, and I'm very interested in all that stuff. And my grandma kind of told me a little bit, but she was kind of like not hesitant. She was just like, why are you investigating all this? Like, she was like, why are you being a detective right now? And I'm like, because I want to know. I was like, I know I'm not going to have kids, but I want my nieces and nephews, and I want them to have this information. I want them to have this history. But essentially that's what's next for me. Just researching my history, just wanting to know where I come from.
Yes.
That's essentially it. But my grandma gave me this really interesting thing. This is a documentation from 1925. So he is somehow, I don't know how I'm related to him. But she gave me this. I don't know if you can. So this is like, I think my great uncle, but from 1925. So this is how they used to identify themselves back in Mexico. So she gave me this and I'm like, okay, I have some kind of information. So I'm like, I just need to find out where and what. So I'm trying to start to do this investigation for myself, but that's what's next for me. I'm down for anything. But once again, thank you so much for everything. And hopefully we stay in touch,
Definitely,
Yeah,
Gabby.
thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
talking to
much.
us.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully. All right. We'll talk to you soon for sure.
For sure. Already. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you
Everyone.
soon.
Bye.
Bye, Gabby. Stop.